very warm welcome to Bharata. First, you're watching Big Picture with Frank Rausan Pereira. And since you're here, I would like to thank you for your continued support. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please like the video, subscribe, and then hit the bell icon for all notifications. Do follow our social media handles for all the latest updates, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter to get some incisive content. Here are the UPI IDs for those of you who would like to come forward and contribute. They, along with the other information, are in the description of the video. Remember, a small contribution that you make will be a giant leap for us to keep bringing you this content. So do continue to show your love and support. Now, on to the discussion, where India and the UK on Tuesday adopted an ambitious roadmap 2030 during the virtual bilateral summit between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his British counterpart, Boris Johnson, that will elevate bilateral ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership. The two leaders discussed the COVID-19 situation and ongoing cooperation in the fight against the pandemic, including the successful partnership on vaccines. Prime Minister Modi thanked Johnson for the prompt medical assistance provided by the UK in the wake of the severe second wave of COVID-19 in India. They also launched enhanced trade partnership and announced their intent to negotiate a comprehensive free trade agreement, including consideration of an interim trade agreement to deliver early gains. In this edition of Big Picture, we will analyze the collaboration between India and the UK. Joining me on the program today are Sheetal Sharma, Center for European Studies, JNU, KV Prasad, Senior Journalist, and Ambassador Gurjeet Singh, Retired Diplomat. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of Big Picture. Ambassador, let me start the program with you first. Let's first try and understand and analyze the key takeaways, really, as far as the summit between the two heads of state are concerned, and generally where India and UK stand right now.
Thank you. This is perhaps one of the most vibrant relationships between India and a European country. Now, since Brexit at the end of last year, Britain has been going headlong in trying to develop new partnerships all around, most importantly in Asia. So if you see during these last few months, it has become a dialogue partner of ASEAN. It has applied to join the TPP, and it has enunciated rather late Indo-Pacific policy. But yes, the India effort was meant to be very early in January. You remember that Prime Minister Johnson was supposed to be the chief guest at the parade. So that got a bit delayed and has now been held through the virtual route finally. So Britain wants to engage India more thoroughly while giving India a larger space on the world stage. So there it wants to include India on the sidelines of the G7 as part of a 10 democracy initiative. It wants to give India a bigger role in the climate change through COP26 and support India's ambitions on nuclear suppliers group and a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. Now, having said that, this virtual summit that we had is a diplomat's delight of verbiage. So we already have a strategic partnership. So every time you do something, you have to find one more adjective to go with it. So I think this time they call it what, global or comprehensive, some other word added to the strategic partnership. Now this has 5 essential components. One is defense and security. The second is trade and investment, for which you have an enhanced trade partnership, which will lead to a comprehensive FTA through an interim arrangement. And then you have the education and people-to-people exchanges. And then there are 2 new mantras in the world without which nothing is complete anymore. One is climate change and the other is the pandemic. So this is a fulsome set of engagement that the India-UK virtual summit has brought about. And I think this is the true flowering of reverse colonialism with the former jewel in the crown.
Absolutely. Let me just build on that point of Brexit that the ambassador was making and take that forward with you, Sheetal Sharma. You know, this aspect of, how desperate is the UK, or how keen is the UK, let's put it that way, to make new friends, new allies, because Brexit has had a major impact on the UK.
Frank, this is very right that you can use this word that UK is desperate to build alliances now world over. The reason is that the Brexit is obvious reason, one of that. And along with that, in the last 5, 6 years, since this 2016 referendum, UK had its own share of, all kinds of tensions and drama building up. First, it was yes, no, then for how long, then for soft Brexit, hard Brexit, what would be the fate of the country? And then the hard hit economies of, COVID times. The last 2 years have been really very, very difficult times for them. So these two things doubled up UK's problems. One was the COVID induced recession, the other one was a long period of uncertainty over Brexit and how to cope with it. Now, once the umbilical cord is cut, UK is standing now on its own feet, and it really needs partners all around the world in order to establish itself. Because number one, the framework that governed the rules and regulatory framework of trade and all that, that is gone. European standards were, yes, of course, they were very much high as compared to the kind of norms and standards that UK may settle for now. So one is that UK has to look forward to now independent bilateral partnerships all over the world, which it has started doing. Now with Japan, with Australia, with US and all these countries, things are going to come up with a greater vigor because it needs to do. Number two is that why with India? India particularly because it wants a reliable partner, particularly in Asia. And Indian population is in total much more than the entire European Union and United States and Canada together. So if you look at this comprehensive partnership that we signed 2004 onwards, we have been having very good, robust relationship with UK for a long period of time, and there are historical reasons for it because UK is our comfort zone. It's like our dal makhni in European Union, and the reason is that the language is the factor, and all other things. Indian diaspora, rest assured, UK now looks forward to the Indian market. Because if you read the document, this is more in favor of the United Kingdom. That is, the document is more for the audience back home at the domestic level rather than talking about the partnership with India. So, what are they looking for? Growing their trade, looking for investment, and as Industry Saab was saying, a kind of reverse colonization in which we are seeing that we are going to now invest into Oxford AstraZeneca in production and then later on distributing it all over the world. So UK is yes desperate, but then along with that desperation to build back the economy, there are also issues which are related to UK's position in the global order. That is how UK is going to see itself. They have been colonial power for a long period of time, and sun never used to set in their empire. But now, in the renewed world, detaching themselves from European Union, how are they going to position themselves in the changing global order as a global actor, which they are actually not, as a major power, which they are not? Then, along with European Union, where they had inhibitions because of not working under the shadow of powers like Germany or France, and now detached with European Union, what is the fate? So they have to
Absolutely.
see themselves, where do they position themselves now? And that colonial mentality is very hard to die down. So this is what they want to see, that how much they can align, how much they can look forward to their own interests, how much can they balance competing interests and all that, and where do they position themselves in the world order?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, KV Prasad, let me bring you in now. So, let's also talk about and understand this other aspect about what's in it for India, really, and what is it that we can get from the UK.
Well, I think India has been to UK as a traditional partner for many reasons. Of course, the historical reasons have already been enumerated by both Ambassador and the Professor. But I think there is a relationship that needs, and if you really go back some 2 decades before, a little about, I think it hit a very low point when around the time Mr. I.K. Gujral was the Prime Minister, because they made a very telling comments about the way UK and its position in the world, which of course has been the fact. But since then, UK unique because it's a P5 country, and India has been supportive of India in many cases, and we have our own interests. And now UK is trying to pitch itself as earlier it was like a gateway to the Europe. Now, of course, it's separated from the European Union, so it has a different trade and industrial relationship. They're in difficult economic times. All that has been said. India, I think, is trying to look at it. How does it find its feet in various continents? And I think in the European continent, in that shell, UK has some voice, not necessarily a big voice, but then you need those different voices at different times to kind of leverage your interest when you work on the world platform.
Absolutely. Ambassador, coming back to you now, you know, is this also an opportunity for both India and the UK to take ties to a new high? Because we've seen that China is a common factor. We've seen the UK, going against Huawei in the past as well. They're very concerned about 5G and 5G technology. Can India and the UK collaborate to ensure that we can deliver on the global stage together?
I think that is the intent of this summit, because there are enough things to drag us down. For instance, the diaspora is actually much of the investor into India. There is no real British investment. I mean, the biggest biggest UK investment in India is Vedanta. So it goes like that. And the UK is not among the big investors. It is 18th in our list of trading partners, and yet we talk of a great trading relationship. What UK wants from us is more investment. India is the second largest investor in the UK. We create thousands of jobs. So it is to their benefit. So in this relationship that we are looking, there has to be greater equality. So, for instance, we need support for manufacturing and employment generation in India. That I don't find even between the lines in the documents of this summit. But coming to the larger point, that yes, India and UK need to rise above the nitty-gritty and go ahead. The diaspora is a double-edged sword. You find in Parliament, they talk about J&K, they talk about farmers' agitation and try and get you hit. It's almost like a local MLA in India would talk. But we have tried to override that. So what are the big things which are coming out of this partnership? One is the climate change partnership, in which India has been given a fairly important pride of place. And Alok Sharma was here earlier from the UK to discuss this. I think that is recognizing that India, from being the boy in the corner, is now the man in the right place for climate change. Second, very important thing, the India-UK innovation partnership for other developing countries, particularly Africa. I think this is very significant. They want to fund Indian innovation and take it to select African countries. Now, this is an untested idea, but I know of certain successes, and I think we need to look at this more closely. Third, when we talk of defense and security, yes, we are looking forward to the visit of the large aircraft carrier, Queen Elizabeth and stuff like that. But I think the real crux comes not in the presence of a limited UK naval presence in our area, but the fact that they are ready to offer their technology, particularly engines, for the LCA project or for India's future aircraft carrier projects. I think these availability of defense technology is very important. The third area I think where importance now comes up is in what they call mobility and migration. This has been a long sticking problem. There are so many Indians who are illegal in the UK but cannot prove that they are Indian. And this has prevented many agreements. Now, I don't know whether in the document what we are saying is true. Are we glossing this over, or have we worked out how we will take them back? But in return for taking back illegals, they are ready to give you a quota of 3,000 professionals to work in UK for a period of 2 years. So that could be something which is legal and good, but I am not quite certain how you're going to work this out. And finally, coming to the question of international handholding. I think besides these things that I mentioned, I think India and UK are going to collaborate better in the UN system, in the WTO, and in the Asia Pacific to have their policies better understood and marketed. So I think overall it is a good thing to have, but I think the real substance is something that we will have to work closely on.
Absolutely. Sheetal Sharma, to what extent can we rely on the UK really as far as some big ticket issues, critical technology and some of these strategic sectors are concerned? We know that, France has our back. We know certain allies, the relationship is so good that we don't have to worry too much. Is that the case with UK as well?
Yes, this is the case with UK as well, France. But Frank, but the reason is that behind this optimism, we have to see certain realist cards being unfolded. The reason is that when we talk about UK particularly, and the way UK is now moving out to the world in order to develop alliances and make itself strong, we also have to see that how are we going to balance our relationship with UK and UK's relationship vis-a-vis some of the other countries. And here I particularly want to bring China into discussion. China is not a threat to UK in the traditional sense, the way we understand China to be as a threat to India, because of the distance, because of geography, because of many other factors which are related to the global order and its dynamics. Now, when we talk about India being supported by UK or other Western countries on many of the international forums and all these things, that's far as we can garner support and feel strong on the global high table. But at the same time, we have to also understand that all these countries independently also and together also, the Western club, they also have a very distinct kind of interest related to China. And China has almost 68 to 70 billion US dollar trade with UK. Now, the issue is that China has acted very tactfully. China developed its economic relationships with all the countries all over the world. Every small, medium, or large economy is dependent upon China. And once China thought, okay, I am now quite comfortably located in terms of dominating the trade relationship, now let me boss around. So China has made all these countries so much dependent upon it that it would be very hard for any country, for that matter, even UK or US, to disassociate with China just to align with India. So at that point of time, we have to really understand that in the global chessboard, we have to see that, okay, as far as trade is concerned, we may align sector specifically, but the overall arcing of alignment of interest, that because we are close to UK now, UK is going to abandon China, absolutely not possible, because everybody is first of all looking for its own interest. Number two, yes, Western countries are to be relied, just like France or US or UK also, on big ticket programs as well. The reason is that among the Western club, it's very clear that we just cannot disassociate ourselves with China for a while. It's not endless, maybe another decade or so, 1.5 or so. For a while we cannot disassociate, but then we have to build our own economies in order to be self-reliant to large extent, because dependence upon China is too much. So in the meantime, what do they look for is developing their own bilateral relationships at the same time, and aligning with the countries. We India particularly, we share the values that are there, the Western world that espouses democracy, freedom of human rights, and all these things. We belong to that value club, whereas China is basically a material power which is trying to twist the arm militarily in the region and otherwise all over the world. So we have to see that before we take a final call, before the global community takes a final call on how to deal with China, the relationship is going to continue to go on the track. But at that point of time, until that happens, one fine day, we have to realize that we have to be optimistic, but at the same time realistic, that look, we just cannot bargain in and out. It's not going to be a zero sum game. And that is
Absolutely.
very important for India. And the third thing that I want to add here is that India has aspirations of becoming a global power. Very good, we have it. But our claim for becoming a global power is a bit faster than our actual homework that we are doing. So we have to actually consolidate our economy, build on our strength, develop on our, and COVID, the crisis has actually exposed the way we are ready for the pandemic. So we are claiming a bit higher at a faster level rather than actually being prepared for all this. So India, if it has to really sit on the global high table, it has to develop one or two capacities which are excellent in the sense that we can actually start challenging China or countering China on certain respects.
Absolutely. KV Prasad, are there any areas of the relationship that need special attention, do you think?
Well, I was very interested to read in the statement that India is going to start work on the free trade agreement. Now, that's something interesting because knowing the fact that in the last 7 years or 10 years, we've been dragging our feet with free trade agreements, which are already in the works, already with some countries, we have not been very happy with them. And the European Union itself is looking for a FTA for the last several years. I think Ambassador Gucci to be able to add some light to it. We have not been able to come with some clear definition as to who we are looking at, what kind of partnerships we are looking at. And of course, we keep on opening these negotiations and they keep going around the circle. Whether it's US, we see it happening all the time. Big powers, you look at it. Australia is, because with the EU comes a small group of the Nordic countries who have their own interests. They look at it, they say, if India, EU does a pact, we'll get a better deal. So this is something which is very interesting, and also on the issue of technology transfer, which I think has been touched upon. If you look at the statement, the biggest development is the Indian development with Rolls-Royce. Now that tells you that is perhaps the best Britain can offer to India in terms of its strategic requirements, both in terms of your aircraft for the Navy, in particular, I think the GC4 or whatever 300 engines are the best. If you look at it, the missile technology that India has purchased for its Rafale and others is a European technology where the British companies are part of it. And now with this, that's the multiple holding in the defense aerospace industry. Countries are different invest. So the British technology per se in the strategic sector, core sector that India requires, I don't know how much can be explored beyond what we have talked about.
Absolutely. All right. Time to get quick closing comments now from all my panelists with the best way forward, starting first with you, Ambassador.
So I think there are few tripwires that we need to be careful about. I think, excuse me, Dr. Sharma mentioned about China. There are limits to British power. And the biggest example of that is their inability to hold China to account on what they have done to Hong Kong. So let's not get very clear that Britain is a big power. Second, the fact that Indian fugitives seem to very easily thrive in Britain and not come back till they want to is a very big tripwire. I don't think you can keep rolling it over forever. Someday you need to solve that one. Third, I think the tax issues on companies like Cairns are another tripwire to further British investment in India. People are watching how we deal with that. So despite all the good intentions of the summit, I think these kind of tripwires need attention. We can't suddenly pretend that this is a new relationship. It's a very old relationship which needs nurturing. So we should not forget this nurturing aspect.
Absolutely. Sheetal Sharma?
Frank, I would say that number one, civilizational, cultural, value-wise, we are happy. Good relationship with UK. Number two, as far as the global order is concerned, we need to understand that we have to deal with all these powers separately, put things on different burners which are of our interest, not understand or think or imagine at any point of time that we'll all align or dovetail on every single issue that is there. Number three, that now this is the time that India should, if the trade deal is going on, then we should have been fulfilling our own interest rather than fulfilling interest of the counterpart, not at the cost of, absolutely not, but maximum amount of leverage we have is to look for our interest in number of programs which are related to domestic infrastructure building, in terms of climate, in terms of health. All these are pressing issues. We just cannot continue to be engaging ourselves too much into foreign policy and avoid or not look at what is happening at the domestic level. So number three, we have to look forward to our own interest, in which health, science, technology, development, climate, all these issues are very important, and we must collaborate as much as possible with countries like UK, because we have a shared interest. We cooperate on number of issues. There are no differences in the value system. So that is what is going to aid our smooth exchange of ideas and rest of the things. At the same time, we must also understand that there are limitations to which even UK will align with us, and that is where, that despite the fact that they have their own set of problems, they are brushing all those issues under the carpet right now because of their own realist perspective and how do they want to engage with the world. So we have to be very realistic in terms of our dealing with United Kingdom right now, or for that matter any country.
And KV Prasad, close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
Well, one of the things that remains sensitive to India and Indian concerns is, as Ambassador Pujit mentioned in his opening remarks, is the Indian diaspora and the issues that have been flagged in the last few years, which Indian government in particular gets very worked up. But if you look at the kind of the quality that is developing in the United Kingdom, so we need to look at how do you address those issues without upsetting the biggest foreign policy direction is the strategic autonomy that we have in a foreign policy pursuit, and ensuring or working with government like the United Kingdom, because they have the domestic politics that seem to be creeping in on their foreign policy. I think we'll have to find some via media to address those issues.
All right, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. So what's coming out of this discussion is that the summit has come at the right time and has covered a whole gamut of issues. The relationship is in a good place and the new developments have been facilitated as a result of Brexit. The UK is desperately looking for partners and is hence reaching out to India as well. There are, however, a few tricky issues that need to be ironed out, like shelter being given to Indian fugitives in the UK. For now, though, we should focus on the positives and work towards each other's mutual benefit. Once again, thank you for your continued support. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon followed by all notifications. Do follow our social media handles for all the latest updates, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter to get some incisive content. Here are the UPI IDs for those of you who would like to come forward and contribute. A small contribution you make will be a giant leap for us to keep bringing you this content. So do continue to show your love and support. All this information is available in the description of the video. So kindly go through it there. That's it from me. See you again next time.